And Enrique Iglesias on Magic, 8:35 on the clock, and still 42 degrees in Linden, and that darn white stuff is still in the forecast, but not through till the week, not up into the weekend, but only for the next couple of days. We just heard that from Mark Breen with our weather update. We'll get more in the afternoon. Mike Barrett, we told you earlier, would be in the studio for another weekly installment of Good Policies. Good morning to you, Mike.
Good morning to you, Jeff. Yeah, the snow, huh? Oh, am I not supposed to say it that way?
No.
I just cursed on the air. Snow.
I broke the rule.
Yeah.
I said it before Mark Breen did at the Fairbanks Museum, and if you take that jar and shake it, you'll see my quarters in there. But have you noticed how much more enjoyable that coffee is on mornings like this?
Yeah, a little crispness in the air makes the coffee that much more enjoyable. I got to tell you, though, I mean, it makes me think back to Halloween's when I was a kid, going trick-or-treating in the snow, walking up the hill both ways.
Yep.
So it's coming at the right time. It's coming at the right time.
So we had a great chat last week, and after you were in on Tuesday, we had Patrick Bolin in from FEMA, and we did some more flood recovery chats. But something we haven't talked about in a while. Remember, over the last couple of years, we had all those wildfires, and then we had flooding down south.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about how that impacted the insurance industry. And if I remember right, the phrase you used was a hard market. What do you anticipate with what's been going on?
Yeah, so where we are now currently, and this is just my personal opinion based on my years of experience. So I could be right on the money or I could be dead wrong, but I feel strongly about this. I feel that the insurance industry is still in a state of recovery. I feel that the flooding that has occurred with the storms here in Vermont in July, and then if you look down in Florida, of course, over the past month, those are really going to be handled by flood insurance policies, not necessarily have much triggered, if anything at all, from a homeowner or a business owner's policy, which is both good and bad. It's bad for those who may not have had flood insurance, could potentially be good for the market because it could help see some reduction in the rates. It still could become problematic for the auto insurance side of things. And here's why. Because auto insurance, if you are carrying comprehensive on your vehicles, comprehensive would cover a flood loss to your car. So we could still see a lot of that, but the cost of materials could certainly see some pressure. The cost per square foot to build a house has gone up incredibly fast over the past 4 years, and I don't see this helping because there'll be so much material that'll be in demand to rebuild that it could put continuous pressure on the marketplace. So that's the one variable. But in terms of the rates, I am still hopeful that 2025 we'll start to see a little bit of a glimmer of hope and maybe a reduction as insurance companies are recovering from sustaining some pretty significant losses.
Well, you mentioned here in Vermont and in Florida, and you throw into the mix North Carolina, and we've seen
Asheville,
all of these devastating photos of cars that literally were thrown around like Tootsie Toys, and they're gone.
Yeah.
They are gone. Yeah. And you mentioned the comprehensive and the flood coverage for a vehicle. I would have to say, because a lot of places like here in Vermont, there was flood damage where you're not required to have flood insurance, but that's really going to hammer the auto insurance industry.
It could put a little bit of pressure on it. I think it might not be as bad as I hope it's not as bad as it could be. I know that they're out there handling it, but the thought being is that, if we can see a leveling of rates to help really, the actuarial science was off for quite a while, if you ask me, whereas the rates weren't necessarily appropriate for the new cost of materials for, not materials, but parts and labor for vehicles and the demand and the severity of claims and the increased cost to repair and replace those. So that's a question mark for sure. But the hope is that we could still see, companies have really been working hard to leverage. That's why we call it the hard market, where underwriting scrutiny is really elevated. So companies are putting much more thought into whether they'll even entertain a risk. Some companies right now are saying, look, because of the current state of the insurance industry and the current market, we're taking a strong stance that we're not going to write your auto insurance unless we also write your homeowner's insurance. So we are seeing some companies take that stance to try to level out the playing field for themselves. So.
Kind of interesting that you would mention that, because my question that popped into my mind there is, and I think you've mentioned this in the past on other subjects, but do you foresee with your experience that XYZ insurance company decides, well, we're not going to provide coverage for this anymore?
I got to tell you, Jeff, it's all up in the air. I mean, there are companies who have been offering personal lines, homeowners, and auto insurance since their inception who are now stopping doing that. There's at least two companies I know of that said, look, you know what? We're done with home and auto. We're going to continue doing commercial insurance because that's still sustainable and profitable. But this whole personal lines insurance is not. So we're gone. Some major companies, big companies, they're impacting people all across the country. So it's really an anybody's guess type of scenario. Again, I am optimistic and hopeful that things are on a good trajectory. I think the companies that certainly serve Vermont are doing well. When companies realized things were going the way they were, they kind of pulled back and elevated the rates for everybody. But now that they've had a chance to kind of see where the problems are, not every state has high risk or high claims payout, and they're starting to see that the Northeast is not as bad as other parts of the country. So maybe we'll see a bit of a reprieve before others.
Well, you've recently been to another national convention in the insurance industry, and I'm sure there was some interesting conversations there. What do you foresee in your possible next trip may come up, in the bullet points?
Yeah, well, we're still working hard to try to get companies to continue to work with agents and work with consumers to try to level out the pricing. The scrutiny has put a lot of pressure on the insurance agents and kind of makes us, we are representatives of the company. That is part of our contractual obligation. We totally get that, but we have been given the bad guy duties way too many. We're always bad cop. And so we're just trying to level that out, take a little bit of pressure off. We have very, very good hopes for things to come. And the big thing I keep my eyes on are the things that we're looking for legislative action that will start presenting in April when we go to D.C.
All right. So as we get close to wrapping things up here, just one more note. So it's our understanding, as we spoke with FEMA last week here, that in our area, here in the Vermont area, due to the two storms that happened in July, this is where I believe that you may have gotten a bad rep from any of your clients, is because you have to say that you're denied.
Yeah, and that's something, actually, believe it or not, Jeff, that we're bringing up on the national discussion is that, for many people, for FEMA to be triggered for assistance, they're looking for a declination letter from your insurance. So now you're filing a claim, which we already know in this current hard market's not ideal. So you're filing a claim with absolutely no hopes, dreams, or desires of it being covered. But it's still a claim, and it's going to pop up that you had a water claim in many cases. So it could adversely impact you going forward. So it's not good for the consumer. It sets unfair expectations on what their insurance may or may not do. And let's be honest, I mean, we've been filing claims for people who had washouts of roads. Roads are not covered by insurance. Flood is not covered by regular insurance. It's got to be flood insurance. So we're trying to see if they can maybe fix that.
So I presented that question to lead into our close out. This is why it is so important to have that relationship, that conversation with your insurance company to make sure that you're covered, so that declinations don't become a common denominator.
Right. That's the one thing you really don't want if you could avoid it, right? And so we've worked really hard as an agency to identify additional flood opportunities, because we realize flood insurance can be very expensive. So have a conversation. If you don't think you need flood, here's my new thing to remember. Does it rain where you live? There you go.
Bingo. Tell them how to reach out.
748-5224. You can find us online, thebarrettagency.com, Google, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram, Barrett Insurance Agency. And I forgot, we're on Portland Street in St. Johnsbury. I missed that part.
You didn't forget it. You're headed there now.
Oh, yeah. Just roundabout.
Good policies on Magic in the Morning. Your Hometown Minute brought to you by Beans Homes coming up. Now it's music from Mariah Carey.